The night Ava Thompson gave her last $20 to a freezing old man, armed men were already searching the city for him. Rain drowned Manhattan in silver sheets, blurring headlights and washing neon into the pavement. Inside a narrow 24-hour diner on 8th Avenue, Ava Thompson wiped down the counter for the third time in 10 minutes. It was the end of a double shift. Her sneakers were soaked, her shoulders ached, but she kept the soft, practiced smile that paid for survival. Because smiles meant tips, and tips meant medicine. At 23, Ava carried exhaustion like a second uniform. She lived in a cramped one-bedroom in Queens with her father, Daniel Thompson, a former construction worker whose lungs had never healed after a scaffolding collapse 5 years earlier. The oxygen machine hummed day and night. The hospital bills arrived with mechanical cruelty. Ava had once studied nursing at community college. Now her textbooks gathered dust in a drawer beside overdue notices. She worked mornings when she could, nights when she had to, and prayed the numbers would somehow add up. The bell above the diner door chimed. An elderly man stepped inside. He didn't belong in a place like this. His wool coat, expensive, European cut, was soaked through. Polished leather shoes were streaked with dirty rainwater. Silver hair clung to his forehead. But it was his eyes that caught Ava's attention. They were lost, not drunk, not confused in the ordinary way. Lost. He sat at a booth without speaking. Ava approached with a towel. "Sir, are you all right?" The man blinked at her, as if trying to remember the world around him. "I was meeting someone," he murmured. She brought him hot coffee, then soup. She didn't ask for payment first. Something about him felt fragile, like a powerful machine missing one critical gear. When she placed the check on the table, he stared at it for a long time. His fingers trembled. "I don't seem to have my wallet," he said quietly. From behind the counter, the diner owner let out a sharp laugh. "Unbelievable! Every night it's something." The old man tried to stand, embarrassed. Ava felt the weight of the folded bill in her apron pocket. She already knew what it was. $20. Her last 20 until Friday. The money meant for her father's inhaler refill. She hesitated, just long enough to imagine her father coughing through the night. Then she placed the bill on the counter. "It's covered," she said. The moaner muttered but took the money. The old man looked at her differently now. His expression sharpened, as if clarity had momentarily returned. "What is your name?" he asked. "Ava." He nodded slowly, committing it to memory. "Thank you, Ava." Outside, engines idled beneath the rain. Neither of them noticed the black SUV turning the corner. Inside that vehicle, 2 men studied a photograph illuminated by dashboard light. The face in the image matched the elderly man in Ava's booth. "Last sighting was Midtown. We're closing in," one man said into his phone. Back in the diner, Ava helped the old man toward the door. "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" she asked. He looked down the street, rain running off the brim of his coat. "Yes," he said after a pause. "I always find me." A strange chill crept up Ava's spine. But this was New York. People said strange things every day. She watched him disappear into the storm. That should have been the end of it. A simple act of kindness, a forgettable night. $20 gone. But the next morning, heavy knocking rattled Ava's apartment door. Not impatient, not friendly, deliberate. When she opened it, 3 men in dark suits stood in the narrow hallway. Their posture was military straight. Behind them, through the stairwell window, black SUVs lined the curb below. Her pulse quickened. "Are you Ava Thompson?" the tall man asked. Her voice nearly failed her. "Yes." He studied her for a moment, then stepped aside. Another man emerged from the shadows, mid-30s, immaculately dressed, still,
controlled, dangerous. His gaze locked onto hers with quiet intensity. "My father met you last night," he calmly said. "And now we need to talk."
Before we move on, let me know in comment which city and state you are watching from, and subscribe Move to Hope for more Mafia stories. Ava didn't remember walking down the stairs. She only remembered the rain and the black SUVs waiting below her apartment like silent judges. The man who had stepped forward introduced himself only once, Dominic Valenti. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The name alone carried weight. The car door was open for her. She hesitated for half a second, then got in. 3 suited men followed in a second vehicle. The convoy pulled away smoothly, disappearing into early morning traffic. No sirens, no chaos, just control. Inside the SUV, Dominic sat across from her. His posture was relaxed, but there was nothing casual about him. His dark hair was neatly styled, jaw sharp, expression unreadable. A faint scar traced along his temple, barely visible unless the light hit it. "You paid for my father's meal," he said. Ava swallowed. He didn't have his wallet. Dominic's eyes didn't leave her face. He also hasn't recognized his own security team in 3 weeks. Her breath caught. Security team? "My father," Dominic continued, "is Lorenzo Valenti." The name meant nothing to her, but it would have meant everything to the city. Lorenzo Valenti, the former king of a criminal empire that had shaped half of New York's underground economy for 30 years, now old, now fading, now unpredictable. He wandered off from a secured residence last night. Men have been searching the city for 12 hours. Ava's stomach turned. "He seemed confused," she whispered. "He is," Dominic replied, "but he remembered you." That made her look up. "What?" "He forgot his own name yesterday, but this morning he repeated yours." Silence filled the car. They drove across a private bridge toward a gated estate overlooking the Hudson. Iron gates opened before the SUVs even slowed down. Money didn't knock, it commanded. Inside the mansion, everything was quiet. Marble floors, high ceilings, paintings that probably cost more than Ava's entire building. Lorenzo Valenti sat in a sunlit room by the window. For a second, he looked exactly as he had in the diner, lost. Then he saw her, and his face softened. "Ava," he said. Dominic watched the interaction carefully. His father reached for her hand as if anchoring himself to something real. "You were kind," Lorenzo murmured. Ava felt something twist in her chest. Later, Dominic led her into a private office. "I investigated you," he said, without apology. Her heart pounded. "You live in Queens. Your father requires respiratory treatment. You're behind on rent. Your electricity notice is 2 weeks overdue." Ava's face burned. "I didn't ask for it. I know. That's why this matters." He placed a file on the desk. "My father refuses his medication. He refuses his doctors, but he responds to you." She stared at him. "I want you to stay here, work as his personal caregiver." The word echoed, caregiver. "In return," he continued, "your father's treatment will be handled, the best specialists, no bills, no debt." It sounded unreal, too easy. "And what's the catch?" she asked quietly. Dominic leaned back slightly. "You'll be living in my world." Before she could respond, an explosion shook the windows. The entire estate trembled. Alarms began to scream. Dominic stood instantly, his calm never cracking. "Rival family," he said, almost bored. "They test boundaries." Gunfire echoed faintly in the distance. Ava froze. This wasn't a movie. This was real. Dominic moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth," he said, without turning, "you're safer here than anywhere else in this city right now." Outside, security forces responded with swift precision. The chaos lasted minutes, minutes that felt like hours. When silence finally returned, Dominic re-entered the office, not a hair out of place. "It won't happen again," he said. Ava realized something in that moment. This wasn't a request. It was an invitation into something powerful, and dangerous. She thought of her father struggling to breathe in their apartment. She thought of $20. "I'll do it," she said softly. Dominic studied her for a long moment. "Good," he replied, because neither of them knew yet that kindness had just stepped into a war.
Kindness had stepped into a war, and now the war was watching her. The first week inside the Valenti estate felt unreal to Ava. Doctors arrived for Lorenzo daily, specialists from private hospitals, therapists, nutritionists, equipment she had only seen in medical textbooks. True to his word, Dominic arranged everything for her father, too. A private pulmonologist visited their apartment in Queens. The overdue bills vanished. The oxygen machine was replaced with a newer, quieter model. No contracts were signed, no threats were made, but the message was clear. This world operated on loyalty. Lorenzo grew calmer with Ava near him. He would sit by the window and ask her about ordinary things, her favorite season, what she studied in college, whether she liked the rain. Sometimes he forgot who she was mid-sentence. Sometimes he called her by another name. But when panic overtook him, she was the only one who could steady him. And Dominic noticed. Late one evening, Ava found Dominic in the estate's private study, reviewing documents while security footage played silently on a screen behind him. "You don't sleep much," she said before she could stop herself. He glanced up. "Sleeping is a luxury." "So is peace," she replied. For a brief second, something almost human crossed his face. Then the alarms went off again, not distant this time, closer. Shouts echoed down the hallway. Security moved fast, but this breach was different. "Safe room," Dominic ordered calmly. But Lorenzo was confused, frightened, resisting movement. Ava didn't think, she acted. She knelt in front of Lorenzo, took his trembling hands, and looked directly into his eyes. "Remember the diner?" she whispered. "The coffee was terrible." He blinked. "The soup was worse," she added gently. A faint smile appeared on his lips. Recognition. That small moment gave security enough time to move him safely. Gunfire cracked through the estate's lower wing. Ava's heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst. Dominic stepped in front of her without hesitation. "You should be terrified," he said quietly. "I am," she admitted, but she didn't run. The attack ended within minutes. The rival faction had underestimated Valenti defenses. When silence returned, Dominic looked at her differently, not as an employee, not as an obligation, but as someone who had chosen to stay. "You could still leave," he said quietly. "And go where?" she replied softly. "Back to pretending the world isn't dangerous?" Weeks passed. The attacks stopped. Whispers in the city shifted tone. The rivals had fallen silent. Some arrested, some vanished, some simply gone. Peace returned. 6 months later, the Valenti estate hosted a charity gala, a strategic move to polish public image and strengthen legitimate business fronts. Ava stood at the top of the grand staircase in a simple but elegant black gown. She looked different now, not hardened, stronger, confident. She had resumed her nursing studies, funded anonymously. She oversaw the Valenti Foundation's medical outreach programs, legal, transparent, real. Dominic joined her at the balcony, overlooking the glittering city skyline. "You could still leave," he said quietly. She looked at the lights, stretching endlessly into the night. "I know." He handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a simple gold ring bearing the Valenti family crest. Not a proposal, a symbol, a choice. You don't survive an empire. You either run from it or you build something better inside it. Ava closed the box gently. Then she slipped the ring onto her finger. "I'm not here for power. I'm here for purpose." For the first time, Dominic smiled. Below them, the city shimmered, unaware that its shadows had just shifted. A waitress with $20 to her name had stepped into a world of kings, and she didn't just survive it. She changed it. If you were Ava, would you have accepted Dominic's offer? Would you step into a dangerous world to protect your family? Or would you walk away, no matter the cost? Tell me your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe to Move to Hope for more powerful, emotional stories about courage, loyalty, and unexpected strength. I read every single one. And until the next story, stay strong, keep moving forward.